We are calling for a community veto to protect the nation's natural resources. Communities have the right to determine where their energy comes from and where it goes, and we choose 100% renewables. True energy independence will be when all of our energy needs are met by the sun, the wind, water, and geothermal sources. The time to independence in fossil fuels has passed. We are now in a dangerous era of global climate change and can wait no longer. We are asking the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to do your due diligence and protect the communities along the path of the proposed pipeline and people who would suffer due to increased greenhouse gases with devastating impacts that we cannot yet predict. We must think about these global impacts while protecting the rights of our local communities and building a sustainable energy economy. That is why we are calling for a community veto, the right to say no.
They turn away people's property rights. A lot of farmers in our area are having the farm divided in 3 different places, and they just take the land. And also the same concerns I have with uranium mining that we fought is that when they start laying these pipelines, which they will not, we're going to stop it, but they will interfere with some uranium deposits. They could, and then we have radon gas that's very high in this area, and inversions trap that radon gas, and it can travel for miles. And also our streams are already impaired from factory farming, biosolids, and they're in these streams that they've been working around. But we're going to stop it. But they need to know it's dangerous in this county and also dangerous in the whole state of Virginia. We do not want the pipeline. We do not need it. If Mr. Tesla, with the Tesla Battery Corporation, came out with a great battery, that will be our future. It is our future for solar, and it will be able to supply energy to our major corporations and companies. Green energy, not gas.
I have something to say. I'm Ken Hildebrand. I ran for Congress the last 2 times. And I just would like to say that we have viable alternatives. I don't think any of us, we shouldn't really be here tonight, and in a sane world we wouldn't be. We're looking at creating what, at the most 50 jobs, and yet we could be growing our own energy using 1930s technology, which was hemp. It would create tens of thousands of jobs in this area, completely safe. It wouldn't take over these people's property. And I mean, how would we explain this to an outside intelligence looking at the world? Honestly, what would we say? Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to bore through all these people's property, and we're going to put this dangerous pipeline in, but we're going to make a plant that they could be using for energy illegal. I think they'd think we were insane.
Thank you, neighbor. He's my neighbor. My name is Carolyn Riley, CarolynReilly. I am here tonight to speak for my father, who is physically unable to be here tonight. We are along milepost 260, potentially. Quoting my father. My name is David Warner, and together with my family, I own a 58-acre farm in Franklin County, Virginia. According to their map, the proposed MVP pipeline would traverse the southwest corner of our farm, which is bordered by 2 creeks. We raise pastured poultry, grass-fed beef, and range-raised pigs on our farm. No chemicals, hormones, or antibiotics are used in the raising of all of our animals. Furthermore, according to the proposed pipeline route as viewed on the MVP site, the pipeline would need to descend from a hill down into the creek area, cross under the creek, and then run along the south side of the creek until ascending a very steep hill to continue on its way to Franklin County, which my neighbor, Mr. Buford, just described. As the scope of this meeting is to raise environmental issues only, my comments will focus on those issues only, although there are many other concerns such as economic, safety, etc. The environmental concerns are, number 1, crossing under a creek and routing alongside the same creek would surely cause sediment problems. This creek ultimately flows into the Blackwater River, the water source for the town of Rocky Mount, and sedimentation and turbidity would obviously affect water quality. Moreover, sedimentation could create blockage or a dam in the creek, thus causing the creek to flood on our lower pasture, rendering it unusable. Number 2, use of Roundup or similar herbicides creates a threat to our animals which are raised organically with organic practices on pasture. If we are unable to use our pastures due to this nearby spraying, we're put out of business. Number 3, during construction, we would be concerned about noise, water, and air pollution emanating from the equipment. As our prevailing winds are from the west, the location where construction would be taking place, we would surely be overtaken by these polluting sources. Our recommendation, take no action on the MVP application. We don't want this pipeline. We don't want it running through our rural, beautiful county of Franklin. If FERC believes it must continue the application process, extend the deadline for scoping an additional 90 days from June 16, 2015 to September 16th. And 2, host additional scoping meetings along the proposed route in Franklin County. New routes were suggested, alternative routes in February along Craig County, Montgomery, Roanoke, Franklin, and Franklin County has the most residents or landowners affected by this pipeline. Yet this is the closest location, over an hour away to travel.
Thank you so much for your comments. Speaker number 4.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ian Riley, I-A-N-R-E-I-L-L-Y. I'm a citizen, a Marine Corps veteran, a farmer, a taxpayer, and a landowner in Franklin County in the 260-mile range on the corner of Little and Teals Creek. And I oppose this pipeline. It's inconceivable to think that the federal FERC, would allow for a for-profit company to take the land through eminent domain, to allow the MVP to defile, poison, and destroy my land, my home, my business, and my livelihood for private gain, and not for public good. The agents of the MVP have already trampled on my property rights and surveyed after it was denied. And here's one of the lovely survey markers that they left for us. After we sent a certified letter denying that, if they can't be trusted with the simple things of following directions and obeying people's property rights, how can they possibly do a project like this? I ask that you work for the people that you represent, we the people, and not the corporations. Do your jobs and don't let this pipeline destroy our creeks, woods, grasslands, wildlife, and livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and offer my comments. My name is Carol Crutchfield, C-A-R-O-L-E, C-R-U-T-C-H-F-I-E-L-D. I live in Franklin County on the Blackwater River, just downstream from its junction with Magadee Creek. I do not know the milepost. The pipeline is not routed through my property, but it is currently set to pass through my neighbor's property, where it will cross both Magadee and the Blackwater near their junction. There has been a lot of information about the disturbance of stream beds and the complications that would go with that. I'm very concerned about those. My home is located within the estimated blast zone in the event of a breach of the pipeline. It is also close enough that it could sustain serious damage from blasting of rocky areas during the construction process. Ironically, there was an article in Wednesday's Roanoke Times explaining scientifically that natural gas is actually worse than other fossil fuels. That research was done by Dr. Robert Howard at Cornell University. It is clear that if FERC approves this project, those of us who oppose the pipeline will have no recourse other than in the courts. I want to go on record that even though I am retired on a fixed income, I will find the means to join a coalition of other property owners like myself to fight this monstrous pipeline by every means possible. Thank you.
Speaker number 7.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ken Hildebrand. I ran for Congress here in the state of Virginia, the 5th District, in the 2012 and 2014 elections. Looking from the outside, this whole project just seems absolutely ludicrous. Why we're even here tonight. There are other means of energy that are completely safe that would provide tens of thousands of jobs, not 50 jobs, and yet we're not using those. One of those is industrial hemp, which in the February 1938 issue of Popular Mechanics was called a billion-dollar crop. They didn't use that word normally back in those days. Now it's been estimated to be $1 trillion crop. So all these people here, these farm owners, who you hear who are actually going to be devastated by this outrageous project, could be flourishing if industrial hemp was legal, which it used to be illegal in the state of Virginia not to grow hemp before the nation was founded. And what I want to ask everybody here, it's hard to, normally you're talking to an audience at you, not towards you, but if you were a superior intelligence and you were looking at Earth from afar, how would you see us? Cutting through these pristine, the woods, the forests, mountain valley. What propaganda? We should be using our fields to grow our own energy and create tens of thousands of jobs, not 50 because a few rich people want to make profit and spoil everyone's lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. What are the plans to locate a possible 42-inch pipe under Route 29 surface road and bridge or under the railroad tracks? Will the pipeline be strong enough to support the weight of the loaded trains? Will the weight and traffic of the surface of the bridge be safe? What damages could a vehicle traveling on surface Route 29 over the bridge cause? Could either situation explode the 42-inch pipeline? Thank you for your consideration of these potential problems.
DLE, live and farm at 1116 Iron Ridge Road, Rocky Mount, Virginia. This pipeline is planned to cross my property, cross Little Creek, cross Steele's Creek next to my property, and it would destroy my honeybee apiary that's been there for 54 years. And the environmental damage to steep slopes and the headwaters of Smith Mountain Lake would be, to Smith Mountain Lake and my property alone would be astronomical.
Thank you for your comments. Number 13.
I'm Judith Rauchley, R-A-U-C-H-L-E, with Preserve Franklin. I own land on Hayes Mountain Road, and I'm gravely concerned about our environment, our safety, and our health. Franklin County is mainly a rural area, and we know that the regulations for pipelines in a more sparsely populated area are much more lax, such as a much thinner wall thickness and the greater shutoff valve distance. So we're at twice the risk for hazardous incidents and twice the risk with far less infrastructure to respond to and deal with these hazards. That sounds to me like we in a rural county are just so much collateral damage. Our lives are not in the least bit important to these companies. So are we to surrender our property rights, violate and pollute our mountains, rivers, forests, wildlife, and farms, and our own health so that fracked natural gas can be exported? There is no justification for constitutional public use eminent domain here. Mountain Valley Pipeline may not have applied yet, but we know they are going to export. Most of us have wells. Our mountainous area is greatly prone to soil erosion problems. There would be trouble with water pollution, flooding, stream channel damage, decreased groundwater storage, slope failures, damage to adjacent or downstream properties. Stormwater runoff is a huge problem here, and it can carry petroleum, salt, sediment, and metals into groundwater and our well supplies. We know that numerous toxic chemicals from equipment during the construction process will enter surface and groundwater immediately, and then chemicals from potential leaks and explosions would saturate the surface and groundwater with this toxic mix, and this will contaminate and have serious health effects on livestock and crops and our drinking water. And then the continual spraying of easements will result in more toxic chemicals in our soil and water supply. This will greatly impact our lives, our health, and for many of us, the way we make our living. High-pressure gas pipelines are not safe, and this one will have as much as 1,500 psi of pressure. The U.S. Department of Transportation's PHMSA reports 11,314 significant gas pipeline accidents from 1995 to 2014, resulting in thousands of injuries and hundreds of deaths, and most of these were from much smaller pipelines. These incidents are going up, not down. In January 2015 alone, there were 5 such explosions. Environmental engineers tell us that if a 42-inch pipeline exploded, the blast radius would be at least a half a mile, and the recommended minimum evacuation distance would be 3/4 of a mile. Our rural volunteer fire departments are not equipped, are not trained, and we do not have the manpower to deal with such blasts. We know that natural gas fires have to burn off. You cannot put them out. There would almost certainly be devastating forest fires. And most people in the impacted counties and communities are just now finding out about this proposed pipeline. We request a 90-day extension of the scoping period so that the impacted communities will have additional time to evaluate and inform the Commission on these issues. Thank you.
I'm Daniel Angle. I live at 1116 Iron Ridge Road. The pipeline is time to come across our property. And I'm going to let you know that I'm opposed to it. And I talked to, MVP had an open house in Franklin County. It's going to hurt our apiary area. I asked them about protecting the pollinators. And they said they would do that, and I asked them how. They said they would send someone out to hand cut all the shrubs and trees that grew in the right of way. I said, you're not going to tell me that, because all they're going to do is spray it with Roundup, and that's another environmental hazard. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm opposed to this pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Number 15.
My name is Kate Dunnigan, Dunnagan, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League and its chapters and members in Virginia. I would like to tell the audience that in the classroom next to the ladies' restroom, we have a table with lots of handouts and information about landowner rights, no trespassing signs, and other resources. Please take them with you tonight. This pipeline represents a massive assault on the environment and the communities along the proposed pipelines. The impacts of extraction, transport, and combustion of natural gas would have devastating impacts on local communities, Virginia, on the nation, and on the entire planet. This commission is legally bound to assess the consequences of the expanded use of fossil fuel and recognize the worldwide environmental problems. Once the impacts are weighed, we believe the no action alternative will be the only recourse. The misuse of eminent domain by EQT and Xterra is a contradictory to its true purpose. The purpose of eminent domain cannot and must not be used to take property for private use. One can drive on an interstate highway, one cannot get gas from an interstate pipeline. Property values and county levies which depend on them will suffer. Professional appraisers say that losses in property value could be from 50% of the land value for the pipeline easement area up to 30% more for the whole property value. The basis of our call for a community veto is the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, which declares that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people. The general police power held by every county in Virginia grants them the authority to enact rules which promote health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. In fact, Pennsylvania County's charter requires its Board of Supervisors to reject companies with violations of health, safety, or environmental regulations. One single air compressor station can release huge amounts of toxic air pollution and global warming gases per year. Presently, the Transcontinental Pipeline Compressor Station in Pennsylvania County has 11 internal combustion engines with a combined total of 24,000 horsepower. In addition to the Transco station, 4 additional compressor stations are contemplated for this pipeline. The Commission must assess the cumulative impact of these stations on the environment and public health. The impacts on the land, air, and water resources which would occur if this project advances are contrary to the letter and the spirit of the National Environmental Policy Act, which is to prevent or eliminate damage to the environment and the biosphere. We recommend denial of the Certificate of Convenience and Public Necessity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Number 16.
I'm Deborah Dix, D-I-X, Blair's, Virginia, which is Pennsylvania County. I am part of Piedmont residents in defense of the environment. I do not think the Mountain Valley pipeline is needed, therefore the FERC should just say no. FERC should just say no for the following reasons. The Roanoke River Basin, it has dozens of impaired streams. Berkshire say no because uranium deposits and rocks are located throughout our whole county, not at just Coles Hill. I know that for a fact. I have a Geiger counter. I can run up on hot rocks in a minute. I can run up somebody digging a hole on Route 29 and the Geiger counter goes crazy. Therefore, you're exposing that worker, I guess DDOT is exposing that worker to radiation.